Hello again, everyone, and thanks for joining us for Monday's edition of Alaska Weather on 15th day of March 2021. I'm Dave Percy, meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first on the hazardous weather graphic, we have a winter storm warning for heavy snow continuing for the greater Juneau area, Admiralty Island, on up throughout Lynn Canal along the Klondike Highway, Haines on up to Skagway, and that warning remains out until, let's see, 10 p.m. this evening, and looking for snowfall totals of 5 to 12 inches throughout that area there. And then the yellow shaded areas out to the west, Sitka, and just to the south there, central inside water, central panhandle. Winter weather advisory, that's out until 7 p.m. this evening for continued snowfall and lesser amounts than up to the north there, but that's going to end about in the next couple hours, 7 p.m., and then mostly rain on down to the south. So from there, going to the next area up on the eastern Beaufort coast, there's a winter weather advisory out until 6 a.m. or throughout the night tonight until 6 a.m. Tuesday there for blowing snow, and visibility is down to less than a half mile at times in blowing snow, with winds gusting 30 to 40 miles per hour, as was going on much of the day today. So from there, moving on to satellite imagery, you can see some clouds moving from east to west there along the Arctic coast and North Slope, being pushed westward on those gusty east winds that were as high as, let's see, 35 miles an hour at Ugnu-Kaparik Airport, and up to 40 miles an hour at, let's see, Point Thompson Airstrip up there west of Kaktovik and Barter Island. And but lighter winds on down to the south over the interior, pretty light winds, and then the cloudiness bringing the snow in over south central Alaska, Kenai Peninsula, 1 to 3 inches, northern Kenai Peninsula, or on up into the Anchorage area, Turnagain Arm, and about an inch or so falling up in the Mananuska-Susitna Valley, and about half an inch to an inch in the Cop River Basin. So widespread area of light snow there over the southeast interior, south central area, but ending over the southern Cook Inlet area. And also Kachemak Bay, Kamishak Bay in a dry area there, dry Kodiak Island today. And kind of a weak spiral in the clouds there, bringing snow showers, but pretty gusty winds to the Aleutian State. King Cove had a peak wind gust 52 miles an hour associated with that spin in the clouds there over the Alaska Peninsula as it pulled westward. And otherwise, Akun Island, about 50 miles an hour. Nikolsky, seeing gusts out of the northwest of 55 miles an hour earlier today. Those are coming down now this afternoon. And less wind and less snow showers over the Pribilof Islands. Not too bad out over the central and western Aleutians. Looks like a fair amount of possible clearing with lighter winds and high pressure building in ahead of the next system. You can see the cloud shield there southwest of Shimia. With that next system, we'll be bringing at least gale force winds into the western Aleutians later tonight and into tomorrow. And then another system cranking up there west of the Queen Charlotte's, going to be moving right on up into the southern panhandle here tomorrow. And on the chart today, you can see that low center there west-southwest of the Queen Charlotte's, about 994 millibars, and the front moving in today, bringing the gusty winds and the precipitation. Rain in the south. Actually, it was a snow changing to rain in the south and a snow situation in the north today. On up to the North Gulf Coast, and that moisture wrapped back into Prince William Sound, Kenai Peninsula, Manuska Valley, to a lesser extent in the Susitna Valley, and northern Cook Inlet, say from Kenai up and across Anchorage. Snow pushing up toward the Alaska Range, but farther to the north, high pressure keeping it dry and cold over the interior. And snow showers out along the west coast all the way from the northwest coast right on down into Bristol Bay, but stronger winds and more numerous snow showers, several inches falling at Cold Bay today, but lesser amounts at King Cove. And Sandpoint maybe had about an inch of snowfall. and snow showers back to the Pribilofs and north side of St. Lawrence Island. But high pressure out to the west there, not too bad. That'll be shifting eastward, so light winds and clearing skies. Adak and Atka, and clouds will be on the increase, mid and high level clouds throughout the night tonight for the far western Aleutians, along with a start to see an increase in the winds. That'll be after midnight or toward morning from the southeast ahead of that front pushing in. Otherwise, trough keeps it unsettled with rain and snow over the Panhandle, with the winter weather advisory and warning ending this evening, and diminishing snow slowly there for the North Gulf Coast and Turnagain Arm and Kinnick Arm, Manuska Valley, western Copper River Basin, Talkeetna is up in toward the Tanana Valley, and then just scattered isolated snow showers with mostly cloudy skies over the interior all the way to the Arctic coast. For tomorrow, high pressure continues to slide eastward there in toward the Fox Islands, so winds and snow showers will be diminishing. Won't end completely, but maybe by afternoon they'll shut off all the way. For drier conditions, and ridging ridging into the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta. Look for light winds, partial clearing, maybe a few lingering light snow showers that won't amount to too much. That same pattern also continue for the Chugach Mountains, Prince William Sound, portion of the Copper River Basin, just light snow showers possible. Next system bringing wind and precipitation of snow if you're high enough, and rain down towards sea level. Stay periods of light snow or snow showers for the northern Panhandle, and gale force winds, possible storm force winds in a narrow band ahead of that front pushing into the western Aleutians, and then that'll weaken considerably, and that gradient barely supports small craft advisories there as it drags across Atka Island, pushing in toward Nikolsky with some rain in the afternoon. Staying west of the Pribilofs though, and another system right over the northern Kuskokwim Valley brings snow showers to the southwest part of the state into Bristol Bay, but clearing out over the Yukon Delta, maybe the Kuskokwim Delta late. Snow showers in a trough up to the northwest in the Lotto Hills and toward Buckland, Shishmaref. Otherwise, not too bad, drying out and clearing out south central Alaska into the Tanana Valley. Snow eastern Copper River Basin with that 992 millibar low lifting north of Yakutat. So gusty winds and rain and snow again for the Panhandle, changing to showers in the afternoon as that front pushes inland. Lows 25 to 35 down that way tonight. Upper 20s Kodiak Island, and 10 to 15 for Bristol Bay, right around 10 there. And 5 to 15 south central Alaska, 5 below to 5 above Copper River Basin, northern Kuskokwim Valley, and 10 to 20 below from the Alaska Range all the way up to the Arctic coast. Single numbers there for Seward Peninsula and St. Lawrence Island, and right around 10 for the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, upper 20s, lower 30s for the Aleutians and Alaska Peninsula. Highs for tomorrow in the 20s, south central Alaska, near 20 for the Kuskokwim Valley and Copper River Basin, upper 30s to mid 40s for the Panhandle, mid 30s Kodiak Island, right around 10 in the central interior, and a little above zero Fort Yukon and Bettles on up into Arctic Village area. Brooks Range a little below zero along the Arctic coast. Mid to upper teens there for the Seward Peninsula, St. Lawrence Island, and 30s over the Aleutians. And for the lows on Wednesday morning, falling back below zero a little bit, at least 0 to 5 below Kenai Peninsula, Manuska Valley, Copper River Basin, 5 to 10 below, and upper 20s to mid 30s for the Panhandle, mid 20s Kodiak Island, and 15 to 25 below for the northeast interior to the Arctic coast.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
First line weather graphic for Tuesday morning. We've got some IFR from Turnagain Arm, Kinnick Arm, Anchorage area, right on up across the Manuska Valley, Talkeetna Mountains, up into the Fairbanks area, upper Tanana Valley there, into the White Mountains, but not quite to the Yukon Flats. Marginal VFR across the Yukon Porcupine Rivers to the Brooks Range. Some VFR for the Koyukuk Valley, and a little bit of VFR there for the eastern North Slope. Otherwise, marginal for the Arctic coast, and IFR there from the northwest coast, Kotzebue Sound, northern Seward Peninsula, Buckland, maybe just, well, probably west of the, or southwest of the Kobuk Valley, but on down into the, across the Yukon River there, maybe getting into the northern Kuskokwim Valley, but more likely in toward Denali Park. And then marginal VFR for the southwest interior, eastern Bering Sea, including the Pribilofs and the eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula. IFR, eastern part of the Panhandle, marginal VFR for the western part, as well as the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound. Good VFR, central western Bering Sea from Atka Island all the way out to Shimia, and at 2 VFR. And for the afternoon, let's see here. There we go. IFR now, southern half of the southeast coast, marginal on up to the north. Marginal VFR, North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, and again, marginal for northern Cook Inlet, upper level low, really slow getting out of the area there, so lower conditions for the Matanuska Valley, marginal in the afternoon, all of the Copper River Basin. Just a little bit of VFR there in the central interior. Cook Inlet becoming VFR, as well as much of the Kenai Peninsula, western Susitna Valley, Kodiak Island VFR, and VFR Adak and Atka to Nikolsky and Nunmak Island. VFR for the central Arctic coast north slope, otherwise marginal in the interior. A little bit of IFR there for the western, for Gamble, call it, and also coming into the western Aleutians with the next front. And then that spreads, makes a pretty good jog to the east there, past Atka by afternoon. That area IFR out there over the Bering Sea, covering the southwest Bering now. IFR from the northwest coast, Cape Lisbon, Point Hope, right on down across Norton Sound, Yukon Delta, on out to Nunivak Island, marginal for St. Lawrence Island, marginal for the Pribilofs to the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula. Eastern Aleutians, VFR maybe mostly sunny, and Kodiak Island VFR everywhere south and east of the Alaska Alaska Range there. VFR Copper River Basin into Prince William Sound, and the Panhandle mostly marginal. For the afternoon, marginal VFR for the southeast coast. VFR holds over the areas south of the Alaska Range, but we've got some marginal VFR pushing into western Cook Inlet, possibly western Susitna Valley, with IFR hung up right along the range there, but cutting across the northern Kuskokwim Valley to the Nulato Hills and Norton Bay, on down to the Alaska Peninsula Aleutian Range. VFR, Yukon Kuskokwim Delta. IFR band there from the Fox Islands, but southwest of the Pribilofs. And eastern Beaufort Sea coast looks pretty good, VFR. And for Anaktuvik and Anigan, marginal VFR tomorrow, and pretty marginal for Lake Clark, Merrill, and rainy as well. Windy also looks pretty marginal, as does Isabel, occasionally marginal, and marginal kind of day for Mentasta and Tanita. Portage, same forecast, marginal VFR. And Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR as well. Freezing levels, 2,000 feet, Dixon entrance at the surface over toward the eastern border of the southern panel, but south of Lynn Canal Glacier Bay, right near Elfin Cove, and hugging the North Gulf Coast, east side of Kodiak Island, Pacific side of the Alaska Peninsula, and just north of the entire Aleutian chain. Icing, moisture coming up with that next storm moving northward there spreads considerable moderate rime icing into the southern panhandle. And then some moisture coming out of the Russian Far East there will bring an increased icing threat to western St. Lawrence Island, and increasing icing threats also from Amchitka westward to Shimianatu with that front. And for the jet stream, upper level low complex, really slow moving eastward because of the southerly flow in advance of it over the panhandle, but northerlies, northwest, turn north 100 to 115 knots down across the Alaska Peninsula, high pressure out to the west. And coming over at 9,000 feet, strongest wind flow is through the eastern Bering Sea at about 40 knots or so, and light over the interior. Southerlies on the increase for the southern panhandle. That storm, you can see 65-knot winds there just west of the Queen Charlotte by tomorrow afternoon. High pressure and 70-knot winds out over the western Aleutians. Turbulence, moderate chop increasing, especially for Prince of Wales Island, and also from Amchitka to Shimianatu. After the break, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecasts.
Can be many miles long, from 1 to 100 feet high, traveling at 400 miles per hour. This ocean monster is known as a tsunami, and it can wreak havoc on coastal populations and landscapes. A tsunami is a series of ocean waves caused by any large and sudden disturbance of the sea surface. Tsunamis can be generated by landslides, volcanic eruptions, or even meteorite impacts in the ocean, but they are most often caused by an earthquake where there's a sudden displacement of the ocean floor. When that happens, there's a transfer of energy from the sea floor to the ocean, causing waves on the surface to radiate outward in all directions. In deep waters, these waves may not even be detectable. But when the tsunami enters shallower waters, the wave speed slows and its height increases. The water along the coast may recede noticeably. A large wall of turbulent water, called a bore, may also form. When the tsunami hits, It may come ashore like a fast-rising flood and strike with devastating force. The series of waves may continue for hours. The first one may not be the last or the largest. For your safety, know the potential warning signs of an incoming tsunami. A strong earthquake that causes difficulty standing. A rapid rise or fall of the water along the coast. A loud ocean roar. When you're in a coastal area, it's important to keep alert for messages from local officials, such as lifeguards, police, the U.S. Tsunami Warning Centers, and NOAA All Hazards Radio. If you find yourself in a location of a tsunami strike, here's what you need to do to stay safe. Keep calm. Walk or run to higher ground, 100 feet above sea level or 1 mile inland. Do not drive. Keep roads open for emergency vehicles. If you cannot move to higher ground, use the stairs to get to the 3rd floor or higher in a sturdy building. Follow all instructions from local officials and stay out of coastal areas until authorities issue an all clear. Tsunamis can strike any coastline in the world and can affect locations thousands of miles away from where they formed. They may be uncommon, but the devastation they cause makes them a deadly force in nature. For more information on tsunamis, go to the following sites.
Tsunami, a killer wave, speeding across the ocean at 400 miles an hour. It smashes into land, destroying everything in its path. Tsunamis do not have a season, but they can strike any coast at any time. If one forms close to the shore, the shaking of the earth and a loud roar may warn of its approach. But when a tsunami forms across the ocean, it can take hours to reach the shore, enough time to warn people to move to higher land. Over the past 20 years, NOAA has developed DART, a real-time monitoring system that provides data for forecasting tsunamis. The DART systems have been deployed in earthquake-prone areas throughout the ocean, including the Pacific and Indian basins. A DART system combines a surface buoy and a sensor on the ocean floor. This sensor detects changes in water pressure and seismic activity and transmits the data back to the surface. If these changes indicate a tsunami may form, the buoy signals an alert via satellite to the tsunami warning centers in Alaska and Hawaii. Back at the centers, scientists plug the data into pre-existing models. These models predict the height, the arrival time, and the coastal locations that the tsunami will hit. Watches and warnings are issued to the affected communities so preparations can begin. Today, 47 DART stations are positioned all around the world, ready to detect and warn coastal communities about the next potential tsunami. With the DART system and tsunami warning centers in place, we are now better prepared to predict a killer wave before it strikes.
December 26, 2004. What began as an undersea earthquake in the Indian Ocean ended as the most deadly tsunami in recorded history, with nearly 240,000 lives lost. This was a devastating wake-up call to coastal communities and tsunami research. Prior to this event, only 6 of NOAA's Deep Ocean Assessment and Reporting of Tsunami, or DART, buoys were in place. Scientists could only predict tsunami arrival times, not flood potential. And there was not a global tsunami warning system. Today, 10 years later, we can tell a different story. U.S. and international coastlines are far better prepared for such a catastrophe, thanks in large part to research and technology developed at the NOAA Center for Tsunami Research at Pacific Marine Environmental Laboratory. NOAA's DART array is now complete, with 39 buoys operated by the National Weather Service's National Data Buoy Center. Along with 21 international buoys, this array can measure a tsunami wave as small as 1 centimeter in the open ocean and provide these data in real time to forecast when a tsunami may hit the coast and how much flooding there will be. NOAA scientists and engineers are currently testing the 4th-generation DART buoy that will be able to measure local tsunamis as well as distant ones. Flooding forecast models incorporate local topography and historical tsunami data in order to more accurately predict exactly how a tsunami might behave when it reaches shore. NOAA has 75 site-specific models that can provide high-resolution flooding forecasts for effective response and mitigation during a tsunami event. NOAA has gathered data from every tsunami since 2004 to improve its forecast models. Today, it operates the world's only real-time tsunami flooding forecast system using DART data to accurately compute flooding forecasts. The NOAA Tsunami Warning Centers make tsunami data available on the Internet and issue advisories, watches, and warnings through the Emergency Alert System and via NOAA weather radios. While it is impossible to prevent a tsunami, we are now much better prepared to detect them and predict their paths and impacts, so those in coastal communities can take the steps necessary to safely protect themselves.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
I'm meteorologist Peter Chan with the National Weather Service in Anchorage, and here is today's marine weather segment. Well, the sea ice edge over the weekend retreated northward because we did have some rather strong south and southwest winds. However, now winds are going to be turning more northerly this week along with a little colder temperatures, and we did have some Polynius form off the north-facing coastlines of the Bering and Chukchi Seas. And those will tend to be filling back in with some ice as we progress through this week, with more northerly winds taking over the region. Tuesday's marine weather forecast for the southeast peninsula, the inner waterways, especially mouth of Dixon Inlet, we'll see southeast winds of 30 knots, gust upwards to 40 knots, and waves running around 8 feet. Offshore, winds will be southeast to east at around 20 to near 30 knots, waves 10 to 15 feet. And on Wednesday, low pressure will continue to be just off the southeast coast there with winds out of the northeast and north at the Dixon entrance on up towards Petersburg, around 15 knots, waves 3 to 5 feet. Along the coast, generally 20 to 25 knot winds. Offshore from the east, the southern half, but southwest to south, especially Gustavus toward Yakutat and westward, and waves running 8 to near 10 feet. South central areas, winds will generally be out of the north and northwest. Prince William Sound, 20 knot north winds, 3-footers. Off the Kenai, northwest, 20 to 25 knots, waves 6 to 7 feet. And the mouth of Cook Inlet, northwest winds 35 knots, waves around 9 feet. On Wednesday, we'll still see westerly winds around 30 knots and waves around 9 feet, mouth of Cook Inlet, northeast of Kodiak Island, and northwest winds around 20 knots off of the Kenai into Prince William Sound, and waves 3 to 5 feet. The Alaska Peninsula and Kodiak Island will see winds on Tuesday, generally out of the north and northwest, around 20 to 30 knots. Kodiak Island, waves 7 to 8 feet. On the Bering side, northwest to north winds at 20 to 25 knots and waves 5 to as high as 10 feet around Cold Bay. Wednesday, look for winds out of the northwest and west at around 25 to near 30 knots around Kodiak Island with waves of 6 to 9 feet. And in the Bering side, west to northwest winds 20 to 25 knots and waves generally around 6 feet. In the Aleutian chain, Eastern Aleutians will still see northwest and north winds, 20 to 25 knots, waves around 10 to 12 feet on Tuesday. However, further west, the winds are going to be southeast and becoming southerly ahead of a front and trough that will be working its way eastward across the region the next day or so, with waves running 10 to 15 feet. And then on Wednesday, overall winds will be south and southwest, 20 to 25 knots. Eastern Aleutian waves around 8 to 10 feet. However, western Aleutians, AKwx westward, will be 35 to near 40 knots, waves 15 to near 20 feet. And across the west coast on Tuesday, open water, we're looking at northwest winds 20 knots, St. Paul and St. George, waves around 9 feet. However, the ice areas will generally see winds out of the west-northwest at around 15 to 20 knots. And on Wednesday, open waters will generally be from the southeast, still at St. Paul and St. George at 20 knots, waves 6 feet. But winds will be turning more, developing a northwest component there across the ice, especially as we get from St. Matthew and Hooper Bay northward, with winds of 20 to 25 knots. Along the Arctic coast on Tuesday, 20 to 25 knot easterly winds, and then further west and southwest of there, we have low pressure that'll be moving into the northwest interior, allowing winds to turn more northwest and then northerly at 15 to 20 knots. And as we go into Wednesday, 10 to 15 knot easterly winds along the Arctic coast and turning more toward the north from Cape Lisbon southward toward Nome. Quick check of the surface maps. You see that area of low pressure, weak low pressure, moving into northwestern Alaska. And more importantly, there is an area of low pressure that will briefly strengthen there in the Gulf of Alaska and impact the southeast parts of the state, and continue to see that low pressure starting to fill just along and off the southeast peninsula coast, with low pressure, trough of low pressure making progress across the northwest, and then a trough of low pressure moving through the western and central Aleutians. Thank you for watching, and join us again tomorrow.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal, pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.